It's Juneteenth. This is the first official Juneteenth that's been given. I think it was made into law. A lot of people don't realize that holidays are holidays because we decide they're holidays, and then Congress or they have to decide. Yeah, just so you know, Thanksgiving was made an official holiday by John F. Kennedy. Like, can you believe that? Like, how many of you thought that Thanksgiving has always been Thanksgiving? Yeah, well, it became officially a holiday during John F. Kennedy. So, Father's Day Eve, somebody just posted the Sacramento, the 3:30 gang. And because everybody who knows me knows that I am the definition of a daddy's girl. So tomorrow is Father's Day. Today is Juneteenth. Tomorrow is Father's Day. And today is Father's Day Eve. And just like my Mother's Day show, your parents, for most of your life, whether you want to admit it or not, your parents are the most influential people in your life. They just are. They made you, or they chose you if you're adopted, or they paid and made you if you're in vitro. Like it's a thing. They are in your life for a bigger picture reason. Some people could say it was divine. Some people would say it was the opposite direction, but they're your parents. And hi, Lori. I'm not going to turn this into 3:30, but I'll say hi to everybody. Say to the best of my ability. And I explained this once to an uncle of mine who was extremely challenged in the ways of behaving. He was a bad boy for a lot of years. And I said that I believe that the reason, and I'm just making this up, so I could be dead wrong, that the reason why women can biologically only create children that's changing now with, obviously, you have adoption and fostering, etc. But biologically, you have, 35 years to create a child. Maybe, 15 to, I don't know, maybe more. 15 to 50. I don't know. It could be longer. Let's say 40. Okay. Let's say 40. Let's say 13 to 53. But you have a period of time that you can be parents. Now, that's not the same with men. In fact, I remember being stunned when Tony Randall, aka Felix Unger of The Odd Couple, married a young woman very late in life. He was always charming and somewhat handsome and been in a lot of movies, but most of us knew Tony Randall as The Odd Couple, and Jack Klugman, they were Felix and Oscar. And he, first of all, to be honest, I wasn't ever 100% sure that he wasn't one of nature's bachelors, And by the way, there's a gay pride is raging in the pool area of my building. Like, whoa, a lot of heinies out. But I digress. And the world we live in now, some of them are people's fathers. And not old school where people got married and had children and then came out of the closet. Not even like that. Like now there's plenty of same-sex male couples, female couples that have children. So it's mostly males in the pool area right now, and it's on. Or maybe I should say it's off. But the point I'm making is that there's a period of time where women can organically have children and are considered able to care for children. There are exceptions. Obviously, Michael Jackson's mother started caring for his children, I believe in her 80s he passed, and Catherine took over the raising of his children. But men, going back to Felix, men can have children forever. Like as long as the gun is shooting, 73 first-time dad. As long as the gun is shooting and nothing has happened like the mumps or anything to affect the efficacy of the bullets, you can be a dad. So I remember finding out that he was a dad at 73. And my brother is a father. He had 2 kids, when he was young, and then he remarried a little bit later. And my brother, who is 50, oh my goodness, my brother's 52 years old. That's my baby brother. He had a child at 49 3/4, pretty darn close to 50. He had a baby. So he's in his early 50s with a little girl, and that's going to keep him young. Believe me, it's keeping him young. So I think that the reason why that happens is because women, let's say they're the vessel, like a canoe, like the child literally rides in you your whole life. Like that's the nature of mothers. The child rides in you like a canoe. First, it rides in you literally, and then it rides in you in your heart and in the way you raise it. Parents have very different relationship with their children. Men are the rudder of the canoe. It's an extremely important job. Fathers are just as important as mothers in a different way. If you don't have a good, strong, grounded steering mechanism, that canoe could go right into the rocks, and everybody has problems. So I believe that the reason why men can have children their whole lives is because sometimes they get kicked out of a canoe, but they still are a good person and still want to be a father and can still be a father because of the different nature of the relationship of fathers and children and mothers and children. You can be a profound, important guide, rudder, as long as your brain works and you can articulate what's in your soul. You can be a good father. And, not to say that you can't be a good mother. It's just much harder to give birth and nurture and focus on a child later in life. And I think one of the reasons that we're designed the way we're designed is because men are supposed to take over. When the canoe gets a little tired, the rudder is supposed to find the way for the vessel to go smoothly and with the least amount of friction. Now, is that what happened in my life? No. Is that what happens in most lives? Probably not. But that doesn't mean that you can't have a fantastic childhood with your parents being different than the archetypes. And my dad was the definition of different than the archetypes. My dad was incredibly brilliant in so many ways. I think about his advice, which I will share with you tonight. And tonight's going to be a show pretty much dedicated. I'm going to do some stories, and I'm going to tell you, oh, that's so sweet. Thank you, Hope. My friend Hope knew my father very well. And so I'm gonna tell you some stories from like pop culture and the news, because we're still doing that. And then I'm gonna tell you about my week as the world opens up. I actually did a charity event this Wednesday night for the Salvation Army in downtown LA at one of their facilities, and they filmed it, and it's going to be live to tape. There were people in the room. They enjoyed the show. But then they're going to air it July 8th for their top fundraisers and contributors. And then it will live on in YouTube for in perpetuity, for people to be able to donate. So as soon as we have the ability to share it with all of you, I'll have producer Stanton migrate it from the Salvation Army page or share it with the Salvation Army page and put it on this page. It was a good performance. It was a very clean, corporate clean performance. So it's good. I can use it as a tool for corporate stuff. And it felt so good to be, in an auditorium in Los Angeles, because I've performed other places, but LA is opening up slowly, to be indoors, masks off, doing a show for a very, very good cause, which is the Salvation Army. So I absolutely loved it and received a lot of praise for my performance. And that was exciting. It was very exciting. I believe it's the first time that I have performed indoors in LA County, and certainly without a mask or with the audience being masked. I've performed in LA, I've performed in Beverly Hills without masks, but we were outdoors. I did a show May 19th, and we were on an indoor-outdoor terrace. So this was completely indoors with cameras and lights, and it was very professional. And it was wonderful. And it also kind of prepared me for the fact that I'm taping my 4th, now I can say it, Showtime special, July 20th. And, July 20th in Orange County at the Irvine Improv, and we'll post a group invite here. And that special, rat bastards, I couldn't convince them I'm 28, is called Women of a Certain Age. And Wendy Liebman's on it. She's amazing. And Gina Yashiri, amazing African-American comedian. And the host is Terry Hatcher. So it's a heck of a lineup. Carol Montgomery. It's a heck of a lineup. The host is Terry Hatcher. It's July 20th. And you know what? I might sneak like B-roll and run around with my camera backstage and get some exclusive footage just for us here on YouTube. So that's pretty exciting. So a lot of good things are cooking, like just a lot. The world is opening up. And as it opens, I'm still showing up here and we're still guiding each other to safe and wonderful places. So before I start talking about my dad and his advice, this is a story that I loved. Let me see if I can tilt. I'm learning how to deal with the light. There's the actual camera. There it is. Nailed it. So here's the story. An 82-year-old man, Manuel Soto, took matters into his own hands to provide resting place for wife on daily walks in Spanish Town. So whatever the rustic bench that sits on a street in the northwest Spanish town of A. Estrada may lack in finish and elegance, it more than makes up for in the devotion that went into its creation. So what happened was this guy kept talking to the city council, and I believe Spanish Town is in New York somewhere, and he kept saying, you know, there should be a public bench here. There should be a place where people can sit down, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And he kept trying and trying to do it legit, you know, but he got no response. It came to nothing. So he went into his own do-it-yourself shop because his wife has osteoporosis. Here's the bench. It's very rustic. I'm trying to, there you go. And he made that bench for his wife. He just went, nailed it, took it out, put it in a public space, and there it sits. And he said it took him only a half an hour. I still have my workshop, so it was just a matter of sawing and nailing, and I finished it straight away. He installed it overnight as a surprise to his wife, Maria, because she cannot take long walks, and he needed her to have a resting place so that they could walk together, and there was a legitimate clean spot where she could sit during their walk. And a few neighbors have been in touch asking me to make another one, and I've said no. I made just one, and it's for my wife. I loved that story. The fact that he tried, it's in The Guardian, the fact that he tried to legitimately make something happen through the courts and through the city council, and nobody was listening and nobody was helping him. And he was like, yeah, well, guess what? I'm doing this for my wife. So that was a great story. This was kind of a cool story. I'm not going to do a deep dive. This was in The Atlantic. Edgar Allan Poe's other obsession. Evidently, Edgar Allan Poe was very interested in science. And in the early and macabre days of coronavirus shutdowns, Edgar Allan Poe was trending. Well, anybody who knows anything about Poe knows The Masque of the Red Death, his Gothic tale from 1842, became in March a 2020 go-to source of allegory. Because a prince whose state is overrun with something like hemorrhagic fever invites 1,000 noble friends to stay inside his well-stocked keep. They amuse themselves for months in quarantine with dancers and buffoons until one night a ghost appears and kills them all. So it went on to say how fascinating and fascinated Poe was with science. Look, this is not the first time we've had global things. We've had, you know, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Love in the Time of Cholera, one of my favorite books. Obviously, we know historically how the Spanish flu hit the world, SARS, the Hong Kong flu in the 60s. So there's always interesting parables and, you know, stories of why these people feel privileged. And he kind of drew the equation of isolated in the Grenadines, avoiding the virus. Record producer David Geffen said, I'm hoping everybody is staying safe. Like, not everybody could be on a mega yacht off the coast of the Grenadines or hiding out in their bunker in New Zealand. But here we are on the other side of it all. and we're alive and we're well. And we didn't have to hunker down. I mean, not everybody, but for the most part, we're okay. Somebody's asking, do you have a Twitch channel? I met a young man 2 Saturday nights ago. His name is Nestor, but he goes by Nest. Some of you saw him simulcasting the Twitch from the capsule. I have been in touch with Nest, and he said that he's going to help me create a Twitch channel. So there you have it. Also, there's a documentary coming out called The Summer of Soul, or or When the Revolution Could Not Be Televised. It's going to be on Hulu, and Disney's showing it at El Capitan. I cannot wait to see this. If you don't have Hulu, by the way, my mother is obsessed with In the Heights, which was Lin-Manuel's first project before Hamilton, was In the Heights, all about a very diverse neighborhood in New York City. And it is now on HBO Max. So my mom is like obsessed. But this is going to be on Hulu. And the reason why I'm saying this is because the streaming stuff is all over. It's all over different places. It's not about having to go to a movie theater. Although, and producer Stanton will love this, I actually went again. Not to El Capitan, because it's not there anymore. I went to a brand spanking new Regal Theater in NoHo. I know he's an AMC guy. Sorry, producer Stanton. But movie theaters are back. And I went to the brand new Regal in NoHo and saw Cruella. And it was one of those theaters with the seats that go back. And it was amazing. I loved the movie again. And how much did I love seeing it in a recliner with big giant cup holders, because I love El Capitan, but it's old school. It's got like nosebleed seats and it's tight and the whole 9 yards. So the revolution could not be televised. In the summer of 1969, there was a giant music festival, and at the same time, the Harlem Cultural Festival, at the same time as Woodstock, and it got completely overshadowed, even though it had Gladys Knight, Stevie Wonder, Sly and the Family Stone. It's never been seen before, and it's going to air. I cannot wait to see it. Now, I'm talking about these summertime things to do because A, they're indoors, B, they're cool. And then this is the last little sort of thing before I go into my father. Okay, Warren Buffett, who should be everybody's dad. Warren Buffett says that there's 3 things, all right, that separate those who succeed from those who fail. And I love this article. Number 1, invest in yourself. I love that. Trust yourself. Leap for yourself. Do what you need to do for yourself. Number 2, measure your success by your inner scorecard. It's not about trappings or money. It's about how happy are you. And number 3, your life success should be defined by one 4-letter word: love. Did you love what you did? Did other people love what you did? Do people love you? Do you love them? Are you using your wealth to create a more loving world? Love, 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 everything about that. All right. So now I am going to talk about my dad, and then I'm going to stick the landing. We're doing a little bit of a shorty show here. So, and we're playing with times, because it may turn out that this is how we do them. Instead of doing an hour, we'll do shorter, easier to bite. So I'm going to give you my dad's 4 pieces of advice, and I'm going to break them down for you. Number 1, you don't have to tell the fat kid he's fat. He knows it. That is so powerful. When you understand what that means, it is so powerful. You don't have to tell the fat kid he's fat. He knows it. It's all about criticism and judgment. Keep it to yourself. Don't criticize, don't point out, mind your own business. I love it. It grows in my head. Like every year, it gets more true and more important and more relevant. Number 2, if the village idiot gives you his best ball of string, you take it and say thank you. That's all about gratitude. If people are doing the best they can, they're doing the best they can. By definition, be grateful and be gracious. If the village idiot gives you his best ball of string, you take it and say thank you. I love that one. Number 3, retail is detail, and you're always selling something, even if it's yourself, which means like don't be sloppy and messy and etc. etc. Like retail is detail, and you're always selling something. Number 4, which is the hardest one. This is the one that's going to bake your noodle. If you are the intellectual superior in any relationship, it is your moral obligation to see that it goes well. In other words, God didn't make you smart or talented or articulate to use it against other people. It's quite the opposite. It's to humble yourself and to use it to make it go right. And the beautiful thing is, it's a trick, because everybody thinks they're smarter than whoever they're fighting with. So if everybody followed that rule, everybody would be nice. It's a trick, but I'm going to repeat it. If you are the intellectual superior in any relationship, it is your moral obligation to see that it goes well. And then this is kind of an also ran. My dad said when I was young, he said, Monique, one day you're going to be broke. One day you're going to be brokenhearted. Make sure it's not the same day. Genius. I have been brokenhearted, but I wasn't broke. And I have been broke, but I wasn't brokenhearted. Got that? Now, actually, I told Stanton the show was going to be longer, but I'm going to be perfectly candid. The show's going to end very soon, and I'll tell you why. Because I have a very lovely girlfriend, and I think she drinks. And thank you, Stanton. You don't have to tell the fat kid he's fatty. Yes, thank you, Stanton. And she just texted me that she got us a table inside. Well, I told her the reservation had to be for 9:15 because I was on a live stream, and I always talk to Stanton after the live stream. But I think she thought it was 8:15 because she just texted me, I got us a table indoors. And she's a very, very good friend. So at the very least, I might have to interrupt this, text her back, and then, but maybe not. You guys came for a good show, not for a long show. Because maybe after I read this, it'll be enough. And we can just leave the stories for next Saturday. This one's pretty good. It's pretty powerful. I think Hope will have what to say because she knew my father and she knew our relationship. The Los. My dad was named Carlos, and we all called him the Los. That was his nickname that one of his ex-girlfriend's sons gave him in 1977. The Los. The chapter is the third to the last in the book. I've been working on a book for a long time. And the title will be The Operation Was Successful. So here's the entrance essay to that chapter, The Operation Was Successful. Sometimes you have to risk the life of one Siamese twin in order to save both. Sometimes you have to make a sacrifice. When people ask me how I feel about my dad's death, I always describe it that he and I were conjoined at the heart, and it was time to be separated. From my birth, we weren't just bonded. I felt completely attached to my father. When he died, when he was removed, I was left raw and fragile and vulnerable, smaller in mass, but larger in spirit, carrying on for both of us. I think this will be the end of the show because it's getting to me. When he was removed, the piece of my heart that was exposed was very tender, but there was also a huge benefit. It had been protected, but unreachable. Until then, I don't believe that I could live the life that I am going to live, that I am currently living, if my dad were still alive, because of the nature of our relationship. But still, he is with me. I hear his silly jokes, his sexist comments, and his unerring wisdom in the wind. I miss him, but it is not painful because nothing was wasted and all of it was necessary. This actually brings me to a certain reconciliatory joy. The books jive. The columns are even. We got more than we gave. our time was metaphysically profitable. I think that's the show, guys. Until next Saturday night, love hard, forgive harder, and get as happy as you can, as fast as you can. Enjoy your Father's Day. Good night.